how private are Macs realistically? I'm going to be honest, for a lot of threat models, and I think especially for just average people, again, like, how private is something is kind of subjective to like what privacy means to the individual. I really think that Macs are like very great devices overall from a privacy perspective. Yes, they're proprietary, blah, 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 but like you can actually verify a lot of this. In fact, the recent stuff that came out about macOS, the researcher, who was very misinformed, by the way, and it was debunked and everything, they were using network analysis to figure out what was going on, and then other people were using network analysis to figure out what wasn't going on, and people were like, you can't use network analysis because macOS is proprietary and you can't actually figure out what's going on. And it's like, well, but the person who made the accusations used network analysis and you completely trusted everything they said. Long story short, macOS is a pretty good place to be overall. No, it's not completely private. It's not like Linux where you can pretty much have full assurance that like there's no data being submitted to any kind of entity, especially if you toggle off telemetry and all that stuff. With that said, what Apple collects is very minimal, especially compared to Windows. It's also a very secure operating system from the get-go, and it also protects yourself from third parties extremely well. Again, privacy, there's like first-party privacy, but there's also third-party privacy, and this is where macOS excels a lot, in my opinion. Like, for example, if you install OBS on a Windows device or even a Linux device, it just works. You just open OBS, and it has access to your camera, it has access to your webcam, it has access to all your files. It can do anything on your computer. On macOS, it's not like that. You open OBS on macOS, you have to give it permission to access specific directories on your computer. It can't access any of your files, and you can actually make OBS only access one single file directory on your computer. To access your camera, it's just like your phone. You have to give it a permission. To access your microphone, you have to give it a permission. To access your keyboard shortcuts, you have to give it a permission. To record your screen, you have to give it a permission. People on Linux and Windows, unless you're using like flat packs that with like Flat Seal or something, there's like very few ways to actually stop a program you install from just recording your screen. Which is a crazy thing when you think about it, because phones don't work that way. Phones are much more modern, but macOS kind of has a similar threat model and a similar setup as phones have, which is really nifty. So again, very complicated answer. It depends what you're going for as well. If you want something that's fully transparent, doesn't contact any first parties or third parties, and like you feel like you have full control of everything, Linux is probably the way to go for you. With that said, I can't find really any argument for Windows over macOS from a privacy or security perspective. There might be a couple things that excel on Windows, but like in the scheme of things, I just really can't find many justifications to use Windows over macOS. And I think macOS isn't a bad place to be from a privacy and security perspective, especially if you follow our macOS privacy and security guide, which I really recommend you check out because it really does take Apple devices to the next level. There's an iOS and a macOS privacy guide that I recommend everyone checks out that are on the Techlore channel. So I hope that helps you a little bit.